Chapter 24 of Beasts, Men, and Gods. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain and is read by Mark Smith of Simpsonville, South Carolina. Beasts, Men, and Gods by Ferdinand Ossendowski. Chapter 24. A Bloody Chastisement. Before long we struck the road which we had traveled coming north, and saw again the kindly rows of chopped-down telegraph poles which had once so warmly protected us. Over the timbered hillocks north of the valley of Tisingol we wended just as it was growing dark. We decided to stay in Bobroff's house, and our companions thought to seek the hospitality of Canine in the telegraph station. At the station gate we found a soldier with a rifle, who questioned us as to who we were and whence we had come, and, being apparently satisfied, whistled out a young officer from the house. "Lieutenant Ivanov," he introduced himself. "I am staying here with my detachment of white partisans." He had come from near Irkutsk with his following of 10 men, and had formed a connection with Lieutenant Colonel Michailov at Uliassutai, who commanded him to take possession of this blockhouse. "Enter, please," he said hospitably. I explained to him that I wanted to stay with Bobroff, whereat he made a despairing gesture with his hand and said, "Don't trouble yourself. The Bobroffs are killed and their house burned." I could not keep back a cry of horror. The lieutenant continued, "Canine and the Puzikovs killed them, pillaged the place, and afterwards burned the house with their dead bodies in it. Do you want to see it?" My friend and I went with the lieutenant and looked over the ominous sight. Blackened uprights stood among charred beams and planks, while crockery and iron pots and pans were scattered all around. A little to one side under some felt lay the remains of the 4 unfortunate individuals. The lieutenant first spoke. "I reported the case to Uliassutai and received word back that the relatives of the deceased would come with 2 officers, who would investigate the affair. That is why I cannot bury the bodies." "How did it happen?" we asked, oppressed by the sad picture. "It was like this," he began. "I was approaching Tisingol at night with my 10 soldiers. Fearing that there might be Reds here, we sneaked up to the station and looked into the windows. We saw Puzikov, Canine, and the short-haired girl, looking over and dividing clothes and other things, and weighing lumps of silver. I did not at once grasp the significance of all this, but, feeling the need for continued caution, ordered one of my soldiers to climb the fence and open the gate. We rushed into the court. The first to run from the house was Canine's wife, who threw up her hands and shrieked in fear. I knew that misfortune would come of all this, and then fainted. One of the men ran out of a side door to a shed in the yard and there tried to get over the fence. I had not noticed him, but one of my soldiers caught him. We were met at the door by Canine, who was white and trembling. I realized that something important had taken place, placed them all under arrest, ordered the men tied, and placed a close guard. All my questions were met with silence save by Madame Canine, who cried, "Pity, pity for the children, they are innocent," as she dropped on her knees and stretched out her hands in supplication to us. The short-haired girl laughed out of impudent eyes and blew a puff of smoke into my face. I was forced to threaten them, and said, "I know that you have committed some crime, but you do not want to confess. If you do not, I shall shoot the men and take the women to Uliassutai to try them there." I spoke with definiteness of voice and intention, for they roused my deepest anger. Quite to my surprise, the short-haired girl first began to speak. "I want to tell you about everything," she said. I ordered ink, paper, and pen brought me. My soldiers were the witnesses. Then I prepared the protocol of the confession of Puzikov's wife. This was her dark and bloody tale. "My husband and I are Bolshevik commissars, and we have been sent to find out how many white officers are hidden in Mongolia. But the old fellow Bobroff knew us. We wanted to go away, but Canine kept us, telling us that Bobroff was rich, and that he had for a long time wanted to kill him and pillage his place. We agreed to join him. We decoyed the young Bobroff to come and play cards with us. When he was going home, my husband stole along behind and shot him. Afterwards we all went to Bobrov's place. I climbed upon the fence and threw some poisoned meat to the dogs, who were dead in a few minutes. Then we all climbed over. The first person to emerge from the house was Bobrov's wife. Puzikov, who was hidden behind the door, killed her with his axe. The old fellow we killed with a blow of the axe as he slept. The little girl ran out into the room as she heard the noise, and Canine shot her in the head with buckshot. Afterwards we looted the house and burned it, even destroying the horses and cattle. Later all would have been completely burned, so that no traces remained, but you suddenly arrived, and these stupid fellows at once betrayed us. It was a dastardly affair, continued the lieutenant as we returned to the station. The hair raised on my head as I listened to the calm description of this young woman, hardly more than a girl. Only then did I fully realize what depravity Bolshevism had brought into the world, crushing out faith, fear of God, and conscience. Only then did I understand that all honest people must fight without compromise against this most dangerous enemy of mankind, so long as life and strength endure. As we walked, I noticed at the side of the road a black spot. It attracted and fixed my attention. "What is that?" I asked, pointing to the spot. "It is the murderer Puzikov, whom I shot," answered the lieutenant. "I would have shot both Canine and the wife of Puzikov, but I was sorry for Canine's wife and children, and I haven't learned the lesson of shooting women. Now I shall send them along with you under the surveillance of my soldiers to Uliassutai. The same result will come, for the Mongols who try them for the murder will surely kill them." This is what happened at Tisingol, on whose shores the will-o'-the-wisp flits over the marshy pools, and near which runs the cleavage of over 200 miles that the last earthquake left in the surface of the land. Maybe it was out of this cleavage that Puzikov, Canine, and the others who have sought to infect the whole world with horror and crime made their appearance from the land of the Inferno. One of Lieutenant Ivanov's soldiers, who was always praying and pale, called them all the servants of Satan. Our trip from Tisingol to Uliassutai in the company of these criminals was very unpleasant. My friend and I entirely lost our usual strength of spirit and healthy frame of mind. Canine persistently brooded and thought, while the impudent woman laughed, smoked, and joked with the soldiers and several of our companions. At last we crossed the Jagistai, and in a few hours descried at first the fortress and then the low adobe houses huddled on the plain which we knew to be Uliassutai. End of chapter.